Okay.
Perfect.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Jared, for the introduction. And thank you, Howard, for the talk on the seeing the animal from the air. And now let's check the different perspective from the space. So now I will present our recent work on how deep learning enables satellite-based monitoring of large populations of terrestrial mammals across heterogeneous landscape. So the main topic in the main species in this research is actually wildebeest, the main role in this iconic annual wildebeest migration. And this is also considered as the largest terrestrial mammal migration. And according to recent estimation, there is about 1.3 million individuals in this Mara Serengeti ecosystem. And with such a huge number, this species drives a lot of very important ecological processes, and it's also quite important for the regional tourism. But before I started this project, I always wondered, how is this number estimated? Well, now I know that they're having a lot of aerial surveys and ground surveys going on since many years ago, with people like you in this workshop, but the question is still there that I also heard from Holly's and Joe's discussion this morning, is that the count is never a real count. It's mostly an estimate from some sample surveys. So if we really want to have a total count of the whole population, the scale of area surveys or ground surveys could be a potential issue. And there could also be quite some uncertainties as well in these surveys, just like what Howard just mentioned. For example, double counting or fatigue if it's crew-based surveys. And if it's camera surveys, it's also, if we want to get the whole population from sample surveys, there could also be sampling error. But satellite sensors can capture a very large area in just seconds or just minutes. So probably it can do a better job here. Well, the good news is that with the advances of satellite sensors, now we can acquire very high resolution imagery with sub-meter resolution. For example, the WarpView 2.3 and GeoEye-1 or QuickBird. All these sensors, they can produce images with, for example, as high as 31 centimeter resolution. And this is one example on Google Earth images. And this is actually an image acquired by GeoEye-1 satellite sensor in 2009 August. And this is apparently a group of wildebeest in savannas. But now the question is, can we count them from the image? Because if we zoom in to the satellite image with such resolution, although it's already very high, but compared to aerial survey images like the camera images shown by Howard, it's still nothing, because we cannot see the like say the head or the body of the animal, and it's just a few pixels. And just like Satish showed yesterday, using some deep learning models like YOLO, we can actually automatically detect and count the individuals from aerial images. But can we still do it on the satellite image? Because with these features that are not so distinct enough, and also the environment in this ecosystem is also very heterogeneous. For example, there's also bushland or forest. Even just some shadows on the road or on the riverbank can look very similar to these animal pixels. So the goal of this research is to investigate the feasibility of detecting and counting wildebeest-sized large mammals in this system using satellite imagery. And to do this, we collected the satellite imagery from the Historical Image Archive. And the images we collected are within this, use the pointer, are within this red polygon. Well, it's highly dependent on the image data availability. So yeah. And the images we collected are from these 6 different years, acquired by 3 different sensors. So you can see that the data set we have here is actually not just varied in resolution from 38 to 50 centimeters, because it's acquired by different sensors, and also varied in the acquisition conditions. For example, the date, the weather, and maybe just the angle. So the images are quite different. And just like what Satish said yesterday, different acquisition conditions can make the image look very different, and the model may have problem in detecting the animals correctly correctly. So we're also adding more challenges to this task by including more different image types. And this is the framework we developed to count the wildlife from satellite imagery, including 3 sections. The first section is to prepare the data. We know that to train a deep learning model, we need to prepare the images as well as the annotations. But here is that it gets a bit more tricky because we don't have ground validation data to know whether they are animals. So to solve this problem, we also downloaded another set of images, the reference images. They were acquired at the same locations, but at different dates. But because we know that the animals are moving, so we can compare these 2 set images and to know whether these black dots, they are animals or they are the background objects, which should be more static. And in this way, we annotate the wildebeest, the animals, as points, like here. And then we rasterize these points to pixels. And each wildebeest here will be represented by a 3x3 pixel segment. And this way we get the segmentation masks prepared to train the model. And the model we used is a UNet-based ensemble model. UNet is a fully convolutional neural network, and it can predict the class for each and every pixel on the image. And here we also adopted an ensemble learning strategy to improve the performance and robustness of the model. To do this, we split the whole training data set into 10 different folds. And we use 9 of these 10 folds for model training and the remaining 1 for validation. And in this way, we would have 10 different combinations of the data set. And then we use this data set to train the model separately. So all these 10 models, they will be trained slightly differently. They will have a slightly different focus. And then in the end, we combine the predictions of each and every model and then average the probability map to obtain the final predictions. And the last step is to convert this pixel-based prediction to points, back to the points. And to do this, we used k-means clustering to recluster these pixel segments back to the points. And now the result we have will be 1 point referring to one individual animal. So this is how this framework works. And the next important part for deep learning model is to evaluate the accuracy of the performance. And to do this, we also evaluate it at individual level. So now we have the ground reference points and we have the predicted points, but we don't need them to match 100% because there could be some spatial shifts. So what we did is that we defined a small searching region around the ground reference point. And basically the size will be the same size as one individual animal. And if a prediction point locates within the searching region, it will be considered as a true positive. And if it's outside, that means it's a false positive. And if it's not detected, then that will be a false negative. And to evaluate the performance of the model, we select a test set using a stratified proportionate random sampling method. And the strata here is based on the wildebeest density. So in this way, we would have some test patches with very high animal density, but also some patches with no animals or very few animals. In this way, we can not only just evaluate how good it is at detecting animal, but also how good it is at avoiding detecting those background objects like a small bush or some shadows. So in total, we selected more than 2,000 test images across the whole data set and includes more than 11,000 wildebeest individuals. And here are some examples of the evaluation. We select examples from different years, different images, and also from different landscapes. And the first column is the original satellite image, with some with animals, some without animals. And the second column is the reference, basically our manual annotations, these red crosses. And the third column is the prediction of the model. And by comparing the prediction against the ground reference, we have the evaluation results. So we can see that they're actually matching pretty well. The red crosses here are the correct predictions, and the blue ones are false positives, and the yellow ones are false negatives. So in the test set, the model actually is doing a pretty good job, and it has a over 80 accuracy in F1 precision as well as recall, which represents different aspects of the model performance. And in total, in the whole data set, we detected around 500,000 of animal individuals. And here are some more examples of the animal detection. Well, the first column is the satellite image at a larger scale with the predictions, and the images on the right are the zoomed in shots from these white squares. So you can see that it is doing a pretty good job in detecting in all different kinds of complex landscapes. And here are some more examples. I'm not sure if you can see these black points clearly from the room, but you can see that there are a bunch of black points, and these are the animals. Maybe they're here getting ready to cross the river. And you can also see that these images is quite complicated. It can be very difficult because like the objects here, they can also look very similar to the wildebeest. But just, I don't know, magically the model just avoided detecting these as animals, but only look at these ones. And here's another example. But these are the animals on the burnt grassland. But this is even a more tricky picture because we can see that because this is the burnt grassland is turned a bit purplish, and the contrast between the animal individual and the background image is even lower. But still, it's doing fine. And the next example, this is another interesting example where we can see the animals forming in line, migrating. So besides just spotting and counting the animal on the image, we can also actually do some more explorations on the results. So this is one example of what we did, is to explore the spatial distribution pattern of the wildebeest aggregations. So we plotted this hotspot map using the results from the wildebeest detections. And this is in these examples are from different months, also different years, and in sometimes in different locations in the study area. So this is in July, and these 3 in August, and September, and October. And the more red it is, the higher what the wildebeest density is. So we can also see that although we don't have the data we have is fragmented, but we can still see some patterns here that matches our observation. For example, here, this is in Mare Triangle, and it has the highest wildebeest density here, which matches with our observation in August when the wildebeest, they aggregate here in this season. So that is a brief introduction on our research. And to look forward, I think this framework shows the possibility of really scaling the surveys spatially, maybe to produce the first ever total counts of migratory ungulates in open landscapes. For example, here for the wildebeest, for every service, we might have challenges in implementing service in different countries because it is also at the border of Tanzania and Kenya. But for satellite, we can capture the images just in one go, maybe within just seconds or minutes to cover a very large area. And in this case, probably we could actually count all the animals within the whole habitat if we could obtain the high quality image. And it could also be possibly applied to other species as well in open landscapes. For example, the caribou in Arctic regions. We haven't tested yet, but I think it should be feasible. And another thing is that it shows new perspectives to study the ecology of the animal aggregations. Because with this method, we have the precise locations of each animal. For example, here, this picture, we could actually plot the wildebeest individual one by one. And then we could study why they aggregate in this kind of pattern, for example, lining like in a line or in the very dense group, or like the shape of the aggregations. And on top of that, we could also try to understand the responses of the animals to environmental changes if we have multiple temporal data. For example, we could study the interactions of the animal aggregation with the environment, like the grass or the other vegetation, in response to the climate changes like rainfall. Yeah, but I will leave this for discussion with you guys because you have more experience in the animal ecology here in this system. But of course, this satellite-based method is not perfect, and there are many limitations as well. Well, the first is the ground validation. In this research, we're using historical image, and we were not able to find any ground surveys or area surveys that can match with the date exactly. So we didn't really have real ground validation, and that could but probably in the future, if we can match the satellite survey together with the area surveys at the same time, we could probably validate the detection from the satellite too. And the second is that the resolution is already very high in the satellite perspective, but it's still not high enough to really discriminate the species. Well, in this whole presentation, I was talking about wildebeest, but to be honest, we don't know if they are wildebeest or they are zebras in the similar size or other species that have a similar size and color. So yeah, that is one thing that we cannot do yet with the satellite data. And the third limitation will be the data availability, because now it's still a little bit expensive to purchase or acquire the satellite data for non-licensed users. And it has a little bit more limitation compared to area survey, is that the cloud can make it difficult to see the animals because the satellite data is acquired above the clouds. And that could be a problem because it's already quite expensive to acquire the data. And if it's not in good weather, then we can't use the image to do this task either. So yeah, I will leave the time for discussion, and thank you.